Hello, everyone. Title of our today's story is I Left My Wife, and It Took Her Over a Week to Notice. I, male 35, was married to my wife, female 35, for 8 years. I left her 5 years ago. We are child free by choice, her choice. I had always said we had a good relationship in marriage, but looking back, I see that it was good for her. Here is my story. I've always been the nerdy type smart, good grades, but never popular. I am from a very well-off family. Due to my grandparents' inheritance and some smart investments my parents did, I did not have to go to college or work and still have a comfortable life. But I love what I did. I met my wife my first year in college. She was in my class and was looking for a tutor. She was a scholarship kid. We spent more and more time together, but never in the weekend. I wasn't the outgoing type, and she would still go out in the weekend. After a while, we started going on dates, and after I graduated, we got married. Looking back, she started making decisions for us as soon as we got together. My wife worked the first half of our marriage, and when her company downsized, she got laid off. She became a stay-at-home wife who was not at home that much. She had friends she took trips with, had a lot of lunches and dinners with her friends, basically spend my money on her well-off lifestyle. While I remember our love life being passionate in the beginning, it's just that, a memory. When I was 29, I was involved in a car crash. They say a drunk driver totaled my car, but I still have no memory of that day. I was in a coma for 2 weeks. After waking up, I had to learn to do a lot again. After 4 months, I went back to work. When I came back home, my wife put me in the spare room. She said it has been like that a while because I was snoring. I kept my mouth shut, but I knew that this was new. The accident somehow gave me clarity of mind. I could see that the marriage has been over for a while, but I still wanted to see if I could save it. Everything I tried failed. What sealed the deal for me was my 30th birthday. I came home and she was not home. She was having a spa day with her friends. I ordered takeout, watched a movie, and made a decision. I wanted out. The next morning, I went to my lawyer to start drafting divorce papers. I stopped engaging with her unless absolutely necessary. Slowly, I started selling anything that had any emotional value to me. I left all her stuff for her. I bought a new car and left it at a parking garage not so far from our home. 1 month later, all I had left were my clothes and a couple of laptops, projector, portable screen. Everything I needed to work from the road. I did not quit my job. I arranged for it to be completely remote. 2 months after my birthday, I stayed while my wife was at just another lunch with her girls. I took the new car, packed everything I needed in it, left the divorce papers and a letter on my bed in the spare room, and closed the door to my house for the last time, wondering how long it would take for her to notice. I decided to drive cross country and visit every place I wanted to go, but couldn't because my wife didn't want to. We had a prenup, so she had no rights to ask anything. In the letter, I explained I told her I was leaving, and I would leave her the house and the car, and would pay a sum every month for exactly a year. After that, she was on her own. In my own stupidity, I forgot to mention why I was leaving. This would work out in my favor. 10 days after I left, I got a text from my wife asking me where I was and if this was a joke. She called me, but I didn't pick up. I never pick up the phone while driving. I had an automated text send that said, "I'm driving and will call back later." She sends me text after text after text. That night, I stopped in a motel and decided to read the texts before calling her back. First, she was asking if this was a joke, then asking when I will come back, then begging me to come back, not knowing why I left, and then she said something. She was sorry and it didn't mean anything, and she will cut him off. She was having an affair, something I never suspected. I called her cell phone, and she was at her parents'. I learned this tactic from TV. She started yelling at me, and I hung up. I waited 1 minute and called back. She started yelling again, and I hung up again. I waited 2 minutes and called back again. This time she wasn't yelling, and I started talking. I told her that she was going to let me talk first, and after I said what I needed to say, and then she could ask questions. I told her why I left. We were married but living like roommates. Not even roommates because they at least acknowledge each other. I don't remember the last time we had a conversation. The last time we did something together. I didn't remember the last time we had sex, but I know it was before the accident. I told her that for a month before leaving, I stopped talking and sold everything I had in the house, and she didn't even notice. That it took her 10 days after I left before she noticed I was gone. If she had called me on the day I left, I would have turned around immediately. I ended with, "Thank you for admitting to the affair. I really didn't know about that." She tried to apologize, and when she asked me to come back, I asked her why. If she could explain to me why, I would consider it. What was in it for me? What would change? She couldn't answer, so I said goodbye and told her my lawyer knows how to contact me. Then I blocked her. The next day, I bought a new phone with a new number and left the old one in the motel. 2 weeks later, I got an email from my lawyer that the divorce papers were signed. I was free. I kept my word. My lawyer already had all documents signed by me that would transfer ownership of the house and the cars to her. The bank automatically deposits a fixed amount to outshared account every month for a year, where we are now. For the past 5 years, I have been driving across the country, working remotely. I finally had a reason to start social media. I posted online where I've been and where I'm going. I stay in a place for a couple of weeks and drive to the next. My ex-wife started following me on Instagram a year after I left, and out of curiosity, I looked at her public posts. I'm not planning on following her back. She posted pics with her boyfriend soon after I left. To her credit, she did not badmouth me, at least not on Instagram. 2 months after I left, they apparently broke up. That was the last time I really had an update of her. I also have a SEX life now. Once I put myself out there, it turned out to be easier to have casual SEX. No committed relationship. Now after years, I'm going back to my hometown. There's a reunion I want to attend. I'm staying for a month, maybe two, and then I'm going to Canada. I have no plans of looking up my ex, but I will also not actively avoid her. If I see her, I'll see her. If I don't, I don't. Why did you leave your house to her? Seriously? You have been a doormat all your life, and when you finally grew a spine, you left her the house. You basically rewarded her for cheating. Anyone who is listening, don't be a doormat. There is nothing wrong with enforcing boundaries. Otherwise, you will end up like OP. OP posted an update which is, "So, I met my ex-wife." Or let's rephrase that. We ran into each other, or rather, she ran into me. I was at a cafe and had just ordered lunch when a woman took a seat at my table. She looked at me in disbelief and said something like, "It's really you?" I must have looked puzzled. Then she said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" I took a closer look and recognized her. She looks different. Her hair is different in style and color. She's wearing glasses again. The last time I remember, she was in college, and she had modest makeup in contrast to the tons of makeup she used to wear. I'm not gonna lie, she looked beautiful. She wanted to catch up. I planned on being cordial, so I told her we could have lunch together, but that I had plans afterwards, so I had her join me for lunch. Here's what I learned. Most of her friends left her because she couldn't afford their luxury spa days, lunches, trips, etc. She sold the house and now lives in an apartment. She has a job now, and that's where she met the guy she's seeing currently. She has a good life now, and it's normal, not extravagant. I know Reddit wants me to hate her and enact some kind of nuclear revenge, but I don't need that. We won't be friends, but that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. Yes, I paid for lunch. And yes, I gave her a hug goodbye afterwards. I'm not giving her my contact information, but I did add her back on Instagram. I think that's enough. Also, I got an invitation to go to a small country in South America by a remote coworker who found my story on Reddit. Seriously considering it. I mean, the food. He suggested driving through his country. It's not a big country, so it would only take a couple of weeks. He's a biker, and I don't know how to ride one, so I'd just follow him and his girlfriend with a car. This would have been an awkward situation meeting your ex. It's good you are over her and not bitter about it. OP, go enjoy your trip to South America. Now to the next story titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my kids, male 16, female 18, their recently deceased mother, female 44, cheated on me? OP's age is 46. The wound's still a bit fresh. A month ago, my wife of 22 years tragically died in a car crash. Cynthia was one of those drivers that loved to stare into her phone, and unfortunately this bad habit caught up with her in the last week of January. I was pretty devastated when the police showed up at my door and told me she had a fatal accident, and I wanted to honor her somehow. At the time of the accident, I had no idea she was having an affair. The last 4 or 5 months I did notice she was pulling away, and our intimacy decreased, but I thought this was just something that happened to couples after 20 years, so I didn't pay much mind to it. But at least from what she told me, Cynthia started to get into writing. She was constantly on her laptop, typing away at all hours. She told me she was working on a fantasy book, hopefully the first of a series. When I asked more, she said it was about a fantasy world, where a super advanced human race appears and interacts with orcs and elves, and magic with laser guns and high tech. It sounded very cool, and Cynthia promised as soon as she had a first draft she liked, she would let me read it. I decided to honor her by getting the draft of her book and hiring a writer to clean it up and publish it with a novelty press. I got on her laptop and no book, no sign at all. I opened her Chrome, thinking she might have written it in Google Drive, and saw a bunch of pinned tab. One was a Facebook Messenger tab with a ton of her messages with a man, John. I have no idea who John is, never met him, but they talked about meeting up, exchanged photos, everything. The last message John sent her was 2 days before Cynthia's accident, the two saying they loved each other, and him saying he was going on a business trip to Germany. The messages between Cynthia and John have shown they had met up at the house more than once, so I already had the locks changed. Not sure if John is back yet, and frankly don't care if he is. I was thoroughly devastated. She did have a Google Drive tab, but in her drive wasn't a book about elves versus Vulcans, but a shared document with John. The document was a plan her and John drafted on how to divorce me, turn the kids against me, and take our home and as much money as possible. One thing she noted was she has been taking money, a few hundred a month, and putting it in a separate account. I got the bank thing sorted out and the money in the kids' college account. I've also been going to therapy twice a week now. It is hard to be mad at someone dead, especially someone everyone else in your life is grieving and praising as a wonderful wife and mother. I have asked my therapist if I should tell my kids about what Cynthia has done and what she was planning to do. My therapist cautioned me about this. He said that they just lost their mother, and being told this would be condemning her memory. Maybe now is not the time, but I think eventually would be a time for my kids to know. I wouldn't recommend telling your kids. If you still want to, then wait until they're grown up. As for your wife, be glad karma got her. Now you won't have to pay her alimony, give up half of your assets, and still have your kids with you. And now to the update. Some things have happened since last time. To answer some questions, I have gone to the bank and got control of Cynthia's account and transferred the money into a savings account for the kids. Also, my kids already suspected. Tuesday night, my eldest Michelle said her and my son Jason had something to say to me. They sat me down in the living room, and Michelle said, "We think mom was cheating on you." They both said they weren't sure, but it was eating them up seeing me in extreme grief the past month, and they thought I should hear what they suspect. They brought up how Cynthia was always away, and when she was at home, she would say strange observations about me. Stuff like, "Isn't it weird your dad's working late this week?" This is one of those seeds Cynthia mentioned in her document that she wanted to plant in the kids. Michelle said her suspicions went high the week before the accident, when she got home from school and saw a strange jacket on the coat hook by the front door. It wasn't any jacket Jason or I had, so she was very suspicious about it. I told both my kids that I didn't tell them, but I found evidence on their mom's computer when I was looking for the book she said she was writing. Michelle wanted to see the evidence, but Jason said he doesn't want to think or talk about mom for a while. I shared the info with Michelle, after she insisted she already suspected her mom and was ready for it. It feels good to now have someone close that can talk to me about this beyond my therapist. Yesterday afternoon, I was home alone when I heard someone jiggling the back door's knob. I went to the door and saw a man I never saw before trying to use a key on the lock. I told him to step back from the door and he almost jumped. I opened the door a crack and asked him who he was and what he was doing in my backyard. It was John, Cynthia's affair partner. He told me that he worked with my wife, and he just got back from a trip and saw Cynthia died on social media, and him and Cynthia were starting a business. They had a business bank account with his investment money in the business, and he was wondering if I could help him get the business funds transferred over. I looked him straight in the eye and said I was at the bank, and Cynthia didn't have an extra business account, and I had no idea what he was talking about. John also said that he wanted to check my wife's things for any sensitive business documents. I said he was a stranger and wasn't welcome in my home, especially since he tried to enter without permission. John looked defeated, but did suggest he would consult with a lawyer about his sensitive business documents and business funds. Not to sound like a jerk, but I'm glad your wife is gone. One less evil person on earth. What kind of psycho wants to turn their kids against the other parent? She wanted to completely wreck you. In the end, karma got her in some kind of cosmic justice. OP, you are now free. Find someone better, spend time with your kids, and live your best life. And if that guy John steps a foot in your house, don't hesitate to exercise your Second Amendment right. And finally, the last story titled, "Am I wrong for feeling bad for my friend's children? I feel powerless." My friend's wife cheated on him during their second year of marriage. Fast forward to a year and a half ago, and my friend found out about it. On top of that, he did a DNA test on his children, and it turned out that neither one of them, a boy, 7, a girl, 6, is actually his. He filed for divorce and also told her that he will abandon the children. He will pay what he needs to if he needs to, but he will never see them again or care about them. He told me that they are not his, and because of that, he is not obliged to care about them. I told him that they are innocent, but he didn't listen. He called both of their families and pretty much informed everyone of what happened. The entire situation was a horrific experience for me. For the most part, I was there as a witness, and at one point, his wife cried and begged him to think about the children. He spat in her face, and I had to pull him away before anything violent happened. He was yelling at me, asking how she dared to beg. Anyway, the divorce happened, which was even bigger chaos than everything leading up to it. After the divorce was finalized, he moved to a different city, got a new job, and cut contact with his ex-wife and children. We rarely talk, but when we do, it's evident that he has some form of PTSD. He also told me that he will never marry again and that if he ever wants a child, he will try surrogacy. Basically, their children lost a father and grandparents. Children will probably hate their mom when they get older. Her own father no longer wants to see her, and the only one she has remotely on her side is her mother. I sometimes see the children, and they would always ask if I talk to their dad, and when is he coming back, which only causes me pain and tears. My heart hurts so much for them because they did nothing wrong, but they suffer the consequences of their mother's actions. This entire situation was too much for me. I even went to therapy for some time. I've literally witnessed a family fall apart. I often think about those children, yet I can't do anything to help them. It's heartbreaking. Edit. I'm not judging him. I just wanted to express concern for the children. You're not wrong to feel bad for the children. However, this whole mess was created by your friend's wife. The kids do have a father, and it's their actual dad. Their mother should find the real father. I actually feel more bad about your friend. Kids lost their dad, but he lost his whole family. Everything he thought was a lie. Poor guy is still grieving. I don't blame him one bit. And that's it for today. Viewers, if you like this video, then make sure to press thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time. Bye-bye.